All right, so last time we were talking about types of authority, recalling that authority is different from domination and that we see it as legitimate in some way. So there's traditional, there's charismatic, and rational legal. Again, for Weber, who theorized this, he argued that rational legal authority was increasingly dominant. Think about the fact that when you're at work, if you don't like your boss, you still do what they say because that's what the rules say. Um, Many people are increasingly disillusioned with the U.S. government. They see it as this kind of bureaucratic, big, clunky thing, and as not very functional. But they still follow it because it's in the rules. Like that's what the rules say. These big bureaucracies say. So Weber argued that charismatic figures could cut through this kind of bureaucracy. And Trump is a great example of this. He doesn't obey the rules, he doesn't follow the norms of people in political power. And his followers love him for it. Again, that's part of the charisma, is that special quality and connection that he has. And Weber, who saw bureaucracies, you recall him from our discussion of rationalization, uh, who saw bureaucracies as increasingly problematic but still dominating society, thought that charismatic figures could really be the one thing that breaks through. And he was unfortunately correct, and that took the shape of Hitler in his time. So let's think about these different types. Parents. I kind of already gave you all this one. What did you say? I would say traditional. We don't obey our parents because it's in a set of rules somewhere, and our parents are often not really, necessarily charismatic figures. They might be, but we always obey our parents. That's what we're supposed to do. We just kind of do it because that's the way it's always been. Professors might have already given you this one too. This one's funny. It's kind of a mix. We just become used to obeying our teachers, so some people say traditional, but it's also kind of in the rule set. We're told when we come to college, part of the rules are, obey your professors, do what they say. So we could also say it's rational legal. A police officer. Well, depending on the situation, some could say it's domination. The threat of violence is there. But again, this is also rational legal. We all get a little intimidated when we're interacting with cops, even I do. And that's because they have a lot of power over us. They have a lot of authority through the government. And it's the government that says those officers have the right to arrest us and to do all those things. Right? So it's that set of rules that give them powers. That would be rational legal. Oprah. Some say if Oprah ran for president, she would be successful, though she doesn't show any sign of doing that, because a lot of people love her. Oprah is an excellent example of a charismatic figure. People connect to her individually. She has special qualities. She performs these kind of miraculous things on her show. She would randomly give people, I don't know, gifts under their seats. It's kind of a cliche now. So Oprah is a great example of a charismatic figure. Trump, for some, is a charismatic leader. For others, he's a rational legal leader. Increasingly, people are trying to invoke rules to try to get him out of power because they think he's unfit. Um, but for Trump's followers, famously, he said that he could shoot someone in the middle of Fifth Avenue and they would still love him. And that's a great sign that Trump is a kind of charismatic figure, that people like him individually. Now, people can become charismatic leaders and then transfer into kind of rational legal systems. In Venezuela, for example, the current government was brought in by Hugo Chavez, who is a sort of semi-socialist dictatorial figure from the military that people just loved. He was famous for these long speeches and calling the imperialist capitalist countries out for their misdeeds. So people really liked him, and he got tons of people in Venezuela to come out and vote for him. So there's a mixture there of charismatic and rational legal. But what's interesting is when he died, people still followed his successor, who is not nearly as charismatic, Nicolas Maduro. Um, but because he was duly elected, people still followed him technically. And this is what autocrats will often try to do, is change the rules so they can stay in power. Queen Elizabeth, again, many people would do what she says because they love the monarchy, because they've always listened to the monarchy, because it's just tradition. Right? And tradition is very powerful in our lives. So this would be an example of traditional